Unmarked spoilers for all 3 seasons of Invincible ahead. This is the only warning you're getting.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
Invincible is beloved for its villains as much as its heroes. The Mahler twins, Doc Seismic, Powerplex, and who could forget my seasonal goat, Kahu? Because what would a superhero story be without interesting villains? Wish I could say the same about the main villains of our story. Before you skewer me, just let me explain. To be frank, I've never liked the Viltrumites as characters. When you peel back the mystique and the shock and awe of an entire species of Kryptonians, if they had the mentality of General Zod, they're just very boring, samey, and sterile, in more ways than one, I guess. So color me surprised if the one I considered a one-note Blood Knight in the comics came at me harder than Negan with a bat to Glenn's head. Too soon? Hey team, Phantom Skull the super security VTuber here, and today I look at Conquest and see how the differences between the comics and the show make Season 3's final boss a more compelling character from his comics counterpart, and how he's a good example of writing a psychopath with layers. Now excuse me while I crack open another beer in despair at how much of Conquest's footage I'm gonna need to edit for YouTube. God, I wish I had the money for an editor. As I said in my intro, the Viltrumites really don't interest me as villains. Outside of the nightmare fuel of an entire race of supermen with a sociopathic colonizer mentality, and just how unfairly built different they are from most of the universe, they're just very boring outside of viewers who just care about how good these characters can punch each other. Their muted, culturally sterile mandates and appeal to strength over emotion is their entire gimmick as a race. Once you peel back the mystery surrounding their species and the sheer terror of their strength, they're not very interesting villains. Outside of Nolan and his character arc, the Viltrumites were just not compelling for me. Then Mr. 10 Times Worse showed up. People have been hyping Conquest for years, and yeah, in the comics it was one of Invincible's most hype battles, but past the fighting, comics Conquest was a pretty basic sadist. His love of destroying and killing things was what made him stand out from the, at the time, almost robotic Viltrumites. In many ways, he came off as a similar Blood Knight to Battle Beast. For the most part, this mentality stays with the show's version of Conquest. He stands out as making it clear he doesn't bother with the bullshit justifications for Viltrum's galaxy-wide colonizing. Conquest is a blunt instrument for when the Viltrumites' typical subterfuge and threats aren't deemed effective. If Conquest rolls up to a planet, someone clearly did something to piss off Viltrum High Command. Probably the biggest difference between Conquest from the typical Viltrumite is that while most of the shown members of the race share the same cold, social Darwinist pragmatism, he's just a straight-up sadistic type of psychopath. Writing a psychopathic villain is frankly not difficult, if you only want to keep to the basics of a surface level one. Just look at the long list of Joker wannabes that make up that list, or Tyrion from Ruby for a bog standard example. Now, writing a psychopath that sticks with you past being simply a giggling sadist, that takes good character writing. A good psychopath needs layers, which Conquest quickly reveals in his short appearance in Season 3. At first, he comes off as your standard Viltrumite with a bit of a bloodthirsty warrior streak, relishing the fact Mark is resisting him. He doesn't have his previous compatriots' all-business coldness. He's strangely casual and somewhat energetic while Mark is getting his first few hits in. It's this brief moment in space where things go from 0 to 100, and both the viewer and Invincible realize just how absolutely screwed everyone is. Mark has been preparing himself for months for another Viltrumite battle, psyching himself up and being ready for whatever they sent. But when he got into space, saw that psychotic grin on Conquest's face, and saw him make a freaking heart out of his own crystallizing blood, it slowly dawned on Mark that something was very wrong. And then Conquest stopped humoring him and showed his real power. As much as I don't like getting into power scaling type talk, since I despise that mentality and how it rots a lot of fandom discussions to basically, bro, this guy could kick that guy's ass, it should be discussed just how out of his league Mark was for most of this fight. To be frank, if it wasn't for Eve's brief intervention and beam spamming this walking tank, Mark probably would have died. I mean, he was reduced to savagely beating Conquest to near death with his own head with the frantic animalistic frenzy of a final girl in an 80s slasher movie. This may be a rare Mark W, but he got it by the skin of his teeth, 2 broken hands, and fresh new trauma. Seriously, what is it about Viltrumites and using Mark as a human battering ram against humans? Is this like some kind of messed up game in Viltrum culture? Anyways, they've spoken about how slow Viltrumites age, and that with that age, Viltrumites get stronger and stronger. With this being the first elderly Viltrumite seen, this should have clued Mark in that he was in for a rough time. Beware the old man in a profession where men die young. Unless your name is immortal, I guess. While 80% of Conquest's on-screen presence was fighting, his conversations in between helped better paint his crazed personality. Most Viltrumite conversations up until now have either been brief stock, "a real warrior feels nothing" dialogue, or some grand speech about the Viltrum Empire's might and mercy. Conquest makes it clear he's here for the vibes, and by vibes I mean mass slaughter. Other Viltrumites treat planetary conquest and mass killing with the same apathetic indifference to fumigating a house to kill off bugs. Conquest treats it like a psychotic child killing animals for fun in the woods. While he still spouts about Mark's Viltrum heart and the thrill of combat, he's far more interested in Mark resisting and fighting him, giving him the excuse he needs to go all out on him and Earth to fulfill his bloodlust. He even gets angry when Mark tries to call a timeout or possibly surrender, giving him a mocking pep talk to get his head back in the game since he wants him to resist. Conquest feels nothing unless he's in a fight or overwhelmingly destroying a target. He has no interest in the grand Viltrum plan, and on some level Loki admits it's all dogmatic nonsense. He only cares about being in battle and feeling the blood of his opponents wash over him. It says a lot that he reveals later that other Viltrumites are wary of him. He's a monster even by his people's warped culture. The way he savagely brutalizes Oliver, who he can and gleefully recognizes as a child, and takes his time to slowly and agonizingly draw out his attempts to rip him apart, to explain in vivid detail the damage he's doing to a terrified Oliver. It was honestly pretty chilling stuff. Viltrumites, as vicious as they are more focused on completing mission parameters to really engage in intentional sadism. Conquest, as I've stated already, is about the bloodshed and the pain. But perhaps one of the biggest changes to Conquest from the comics to the show, besides him using Mark as a battering ram being 10 times more traumatizing than the original, is the reveal of who Conquest is behind the name and the sadism. In the final moments of the fight, after Eve has been brutalized and Invincible is on his last leg, Conquest strangely stops for a moment and quietly whispers in his ear, saying the most out-of-nowhere thing in the entire episode: "I'm so lonely." In a hushed and shockingly pained tone, Conquest lays his heart bare to the restrained Invincible, revealing how it secretly hurts him how his fellow Viltrumites fear and avoid him, unless they need him. He acknowledges they only find him useful for committing atrocities that the Empire doesn't want to dirty their own hands with, and laments how not only does he hate his name Conquest and what it represents, he also laments that no one thinks he's capable of anything other than it. He almost breaks down, admitting that he wants to cry over how not a single being in the universe could care or love him, since Viltrumites can't cry. His voice actor Jeffrey Dean Morgan really hit the ball out of the park. You can tell from the pained and haunted tone in his voice that this isn't Conquest messing with Mark. This is really him dropping the mask to reveal a more vulnerable side to himself. But because of the twisted warrior culture of the Empire, he can never reveal this, only to someone he considers a worthy opponent, and one he has full intentions on killing right after. One of the galaxy's most dangerous beings, and he can only reveal his vulnerability in the eyes of a dying man. Make no mistake, this doesn't suddenly make him someone you're supposed to sympathize with. Pity, sure, but not sympathize. He's still a psychotic sadist, and while Viltrum's incredibly messed up dogmatic culture turned him into this, he's still the master of his own destiny, even if he laments about his lot in it. Well, Conquest is down for the count till next season, and really, Cecil keeping him alive instead of making a super Reaniman out of his corpse is still the dumbest thing he could have done both in the comic and show. I do have hope that they change up the circumstances next season. But to explain this, I need to go into slight comic spoilers. While they aren't earth-shattering revelations, I do want to warn people over being one of those dickbags who post full comic spoilers in their titles and thumbnails for their crappy AI-voiced content slop. You know who you are. So go to this timestamp if you want to avoid spoilers. I'll see you over there. So in the comics, the grand and shocking tale of Conquest revival is: he wakes up, shocked he's alive, calls Invincible an idiot for letting him live, extremely low diffs the GGA's countermeasures, and yeets his naked old man ass right into space to rocket to Viltrum, with Cecil reacting as one would. Talk about cataclysmic spoilers, am I right? Regardless, I hope Season 4 at least gives him more time to be restrained, and have Cecil and Conquest actually interact, however brief. Beyond wanting to give more opportunities for Jeffrey Dean Morgan to cook as Conquest, I think a conversation with him and Cecil would be fascinating. And like the expanded moments of the GDA trying to slow down Omni-Man in Season 1, I think they could at least have a more thrilling sequence for Conquest to escape, because real talk, the built different, low diff moments with the Viltrumites is getting old fast. There isn't much else I can really add since I don't want to get into comic spoilers, since there's no telling what's staying or what will get relooked at, and Conquest at best had one extended episode, with most of it being him beating Mark like a drum at a metal concert. But with a single episode, he brought more presence than some villains do in an entire series. He shows that there's more layers to the psychotic Blood Knight, but not without reminding you that he's not someone you want to try and Steven Universe out of a fight. Can't wait to see what new changes or additions they make to him next season, and for everyone to quickly go from glazing to hating Cecil when Conquest flexes his way off of Earth. And I am excited to see how the fandom is coming to love to hate this force of nature as a top tier villain. Next time, we talk about someone the fandom, has less love for. Time for a real hear me out. Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for checking out my video. If you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate a like and a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the Invincible Season 3 finale, and your opinions on Conquest. Be sure to subscribe for more superhero, anime, and comics discussions. I recently finished my longest video to date reviewing Season 1 of Creature Commandos, and if you want to check it out, the link's right there. Thanks again, and I'll see y'all next time.